Welcome to the Pivot Point podcast. This season, I'm focused on inclusive leadership and how to lead like an ally. In this episode, I will share some insights and ideas from my new research for my new book, Lead Like an Ally, and leave you with some actionable tips to think about and discuss with your organization. I share this information because inclusive leadership is a journey. It requires bravery and courage, and you do not have to do it alone. At Pivot Point, I believe we are stronger together. We are one. Let's dig in to this week's topic. So this is our fourth module. If you've been following us and you're tracking along in your ally journey, you've got 3 nuggets now from the previous 3 episodes around self-awareness, self-management, comfort with discomfort. We're now building with knowing your ally role. It's time to dig in. It's time to map out what it means to be an ally for you. And what I'd invite you to do is to really think today about your ally role and how you want to be an ally for others. So there is, in fact, an ally continuum. And my friend Jennifer Brown, follow her podcast. It is highly, highly educational on everything diversity and inclusion. She has an ally continuum, and I love this framework, and I invite you to subscribe to her podcast, Will to Change, to learn more about her ally continuum. Essentially, there's 4 key steps, and it begins with apathy of, I don't know what I don't know. I have pretty low awareness. I may say something like that's not an issue here. We are diverse. We are inclusive, which I've yet to find a team that truly is the most diverse and inclusive they could be. We all have opportunities for improvement. So apathy is just, I'm not aware. I don't know what I don't know. 2 is awareness. Now I do know something. Now I'm aware, I'm awoke. I'm aware that maybe things aren't as equal here as they could be. I'm aware that certain people have a leg up from certain people. Certain types of people are promoted here. Certain types of people are hired here. Certain types of people leave here, are part of our turnover. Think about how you can heighten your awareness. Certainly, if you're in our program, Lead Like an Ally, which we invite you to do a 30-day free preview. If you're in the program or you're subscribed to this podcast, I'm guessing you're aware, if you are not fighting it at this point. But where you probably aren't, or where you could be more, is the 3rd phase of activity, okay, on that ally continuum. So now I'm active. I'm doing something. I'm saying something. I am advocating. I'm coaching. I'm mentoring. We'll talk about all those different ally roles. So think about where you're at. So if you start with apathy, awareness, activity, then advocacy. How can I be an advocate for others? Sing from the rooftops about others, especially those that are underrepresented in our organization. How can I create a space where they're seen, heard, and feel like they belong? This is probably the hardest part of the ally journey, is really getting vocal in a big way, publicly, and in very non-private spaces, not just one-on-one, but one-to-many kind of communication. That's probably where you have the biggest opportunity, as many of my clients and organizations do, is advocacy. So where are you on that journey? Where would you place yourself? Apathy, awareness, activity, or advocacy? That's the ally continuum. The second thing I want to talk with you about today, and about the importance of knowing your ally role, is mentorship. Mentorship is one of the primary ways you can show up and be an ally for others. What we know about the statistics around mentorship is that women, people of color, people with different abilities, people of different sexual orientations, if they are out in the workplace, all of those folks that tend to be underrepresented in organizations are less likely to be mentored. This is a huge problem. How are we ever going to get from point A to point B, let alone point C, if we don't have somebody helping us? In fact, I lead this exercise in nearly every room I speak and train with. Show of hands, who has a mentor? From my anecdotal research and from some polling research that one of my sister companies has created, men, about 2/3 of primarily white men, have mentors. Women, maybe a third if we're lucky. People of color, even less than that. And so the list goes on. And we know diversity, again, is beyond those visible traits of race and gender. But those that are different inside your organization probably struggle to find good mentors. So how could you show up as a mentor? How could you mentor somebody that's different than you? And what could you learn from somebody that's different than you? We know the reciprocity that comes from mentorship. I know when I mentor other people, I learn a lot more from them than I think sometimes they learn from me. And that's a really good thing for me, but I'm really doing it to help them, to be helpful for them, because my allies were helpful to me, and I really believe in paying it forward. What's really great about the universe is I often find positive karma comes back your way. When I reach out and help somebody, I almost always find, not immediately, but later down the line, they find a way to help me. And I'm not doing it with that intention. I'm truly doing it to give, which we'll talk about giving as a strategy in a later module. But allies that mentor get better themselves. So who could you mentor? And especially somebody different than you. And if that's just simply of a different race, a different gender, somebody that looks different than you, someone that has different experiences than you, I promise you, you're going to learn a ton on the other side. So think about who you can mentor. And then third principle today that we're talking about with knowing your ally role is sponsorship. So sponsors are different than mentors. Okay, mentors kind of are somebody that wants to be like you, right? Is somebody that you could mentor, or somebody that would mentor you is somebody you want to be like. But a sponsor is really somebody that's in a room where decisions are made about your career. And for the majority of organizations, C-suites are primarily filled with white men, averages about 80% at most organizations. So we got to have the ear of the people with influence, the people that can sponsor us. So if they don't know what we want, they can't advocate for us. So how can you line up sponsors or be a sponsor? What influence do you have? What ears do you have? Who could you tap and say, hey, did you know about so-and-so? They're doing some great work over here. Did you notice that? Underrepresented people are less likely to be seen for their efforts. There's this myth of meritocracy where we believe people are just rewarded for good work. Unfortunately, we just don't see that actually happen in many workplaces. We're far more likely to sponsor or recognize people that remind us of ourselves. If you've heard that before, oh, I really like him. He reminds me of my younger self. Then you've got a problem. There's probably less mentoring and sponsoring happening with different types of folks. Fourth principle that we're talking about with your knowing your ally role is coaching to success. Coaching is an incredible skill set. It's one of the primary ways you can show up as an ally. And coaching is actually quite simple. It's not like an athletic coach that inspires you and motivates you with some big speech. No, a coach does three things really well. They listen, they ask open-ended questions, and they promote what I call self-discovery. And when you think about how you can create space for somebody to feel seen, heard, and belong, I don't know of any better strategy than coaching. So how could you get good at coaching? How could you focus more on listening than speaking? How could you practice asking some really good open-ended questions? Those usually begin with words like what or how. And then how could you kind of think about self-discovery and how you can create a space where people can come up with their own ideas, their own solutions, because you know that when you come up with your own idea, you're far more likely to take action on it than simply listening to someone else's idea. Allies, inclusive leaders, do not save the day. They simply provide mentorship, they may provide sponsorship, and they may provide coaching to help those around them get better. If you liked this episode, I invite you to subscribe to our podcast at nextpivotpoint.com. We are on all the major channels. And you can sign up for the complimentary 30-day preview of our new program, Lead Like an Ally, and order our new book, Lead Like an Ally. I appreciate you listening to this episode. Who do you know that needs to hear this message? Hit the share button or connect with me on LinkedIn. Simply search Julie Kratz, Kratz. I post daily about this topic. I host this podcast because I believe we are stronger together. We are one.